Hello friends, you've just unlocked another chapter of the past, hidden, untold, and waiting to be discovered. This is Buried Truths. Let's view the video. She was born a princess but lived a story of tragedy, power, and rebellion. Marked for political use at 6 and widowed by 10 weeks into marriage, Mary Tudor, sister of Henry VIII, was once Queen of France, then erased by history. Her life was extraordinary, but her memory nearly vanished. Born in 1496 at Richmond Palace, Mary Tudor was the youngest daughter of King Henry VII and Elizabeth of York. She grew up in opulent surroundings, educated in languages, music, and dance. Unlike most girls of her time, she was raised knowing she would shape European politics through marriage, not choice. As early as age 6, Mary's future was decided. She was formally betrothed to Charles of Castile, a powerful heir who would later become Holy Roman Emperor. The match was purely political, crafted by her father to secure England's alliance with the Habsburg Empire. Mary had no voice in the matter. Mary's betrothal meant she was no longer just a princess, she was England's diplomatic card. At court, she learned how to carry herself with grace and obedience. Behind closed doors, though, she was still a child, struggling to understand why her life was being written by kings and counselors, not by herself. Her relationship with her brother, the future Henry VIII, was unusually close. They shared tutors, played music together, and confided in each other. This bond would shape her fate later in life, as Mary would dare to challenge him, something few people ever did. But for now, she remained loyal and silent. Mary's early education included not just court etiquette but also the expectation of becoming a foreign queen. Her tutors prepared her to rule abroad, not in England. She learned French fluently, an ominous foreshadowing of the kingdom she would one day rule, if only for a brief and bitter time. By the time she turned 12, Mary was already seen as a pawn on Europe's chessboard. Her beauty was renowned, her grace admired, but her freedom gone. In a world dominated by men and monarchs, she was bound for a life she never chose, a royal fate marked by destiny, not desire. Mary Tudor's childhood promise to Charles of Castile was broken for political advantage. With shifting European alliances, England now looked to France. At just 18, Mary was ordered to marry the 52-year-old King Louis XII of France, a man old enough to be her father. Love was not part of the arrangement. Henry VIII, now King of England, saw the marriage as a chance to secure peace and prestige. Though close to Mary, he placed duty above affection. Mary wept when told of her new fate. She begged Henry not to send her, but the throne had spoken, and her heart was silenced. The wedding took place in October 1514 in Abbeville, France. Mary wore gold-threaded garments, regal and radiant. The French court was stunned by her beauty. But behind the veil and crown, she mourned the loss of her freedom. Her new husband, King Louis XII, was physically weak and decades older. Mary's arrival in France was not warmly embraced by all. French courtiers whispered, jealous of the young English queen. Political tensions lingered under the surface. Mary's role was to produce an heir quickly, but her presence was seen as a disruption to existing court loyalties and long-standing power structures. Though Louis XII adored her, Mary found little happiness. She struggled to adjust to French customs and the pressure of royal expectations. Isolated and surrounded by spies, she confided in only a few trusted attendants. Every step, every word, was judged. Her crown came with a price she never imagined. Mary found solace only in letters from England, especially from Charles Brandon, Duke of Suffolk, her secret love. Their private correspondence became a source of strength. Though separated by kingdoms, they had shared hearts. This hidden romance would soon challenge the most powerful monarch in Europe, her brother, Henry VIII. Within 10 weeks of their marriage, King Louis XII died suddenly. Mary was now Queen Dowager of France, widowed before her first year of marriage ended. Trapped in a foreign court, surrounded by political predators, and grieving in silence, Mary's fate was once again being carved by royal ambition, not her own. Mary Tudor entered the French court not as a bride, but as a symbol of alliance. Though she wore a crown, she carried the burden of politics, surrounded by suspicion. The crown she received was dazzling, but it was also a gilded cage. Her title masked her isolation and growing sorrow. As Queen of France, Mary was expected to conceive an heir immediately. But Louis XII, aged and ailing, was too frail to fulfill the kingly duty. The pressure mounted daily. Courtiers gossiped, and her every move was scrutinized. The Queen's bedchamber became a state matter. Her privacy evaporated completely. Mary found the French court lavish but suffocating. Strict etiquette and venomous rivalry defined her daily life. She couldn't speak freely, laugh openly, or trust easily. Even her food and attendants were chosen by others. It was a royal prison masked by silks, music, and candlelight in endless gilded halls. The French nobles distrusted her, seeing her as an English spy. Some plotted to replace her influence with French-born noblewomen. Isolated from allies, Mary depended on her few English attendants and held fast to letters from Charles Brandon, her secret love and lifeline to the world beyond this hostile court. Her beauty was praised across Europe, flowing auburn hair, flawless skin, regal grace, but beauty alone couldn't shield her from power games. Her young face became the centerpiece of foreign diplomacy. Artists painted her, poets praised her, but behind the eyes was a woman frightened, disillusioned, and dangerously close to rebellion. Mary's time as queen was brief, but it left a mark on French politics. Her presence shifted alliances, unnerved the court, and threatened old power structures. Though her influence was subtle, it stirred fear among French nobility. The English rose had bloomed in foreign soil, and its thorns were beginning to show. King Louis XII's death in January 1515 ended her reign. She had been queen for only 10 weeks. Now widowed and powerless in a foreign kingdom, Mary was vulnerable to court vultures. But beneath her mourning veil, she plotted not just escape, but a defiant return home on her own terms. At just 18, Mary Tudor became a widow. Her husband, King Louis XII, died suddenly, leaving her Queen Dowager of France. Her marriage had lasted only 10 weeks. French courtiers swirled around her like vultures. Alone, foreign, and vulnerable, Mary was thrust into another political storm, this time, without protection or power. The French court wasted no time. Suitors emerged, eager to claim the wealthy young widow. But Mary had no interest in another political marriage. Instead, her heart turned toward the man she truly loved, Charles Brandon, Duke of Suffolk, her brother's closest friend. Their secret romance was now dangerously real. Mary feared her brother's wrath. Henry VIII had plans to marry her off again to another European royal. If she married Brandon without permission, it would be treason. But love, once forbidden, had now become the only truth in her life. She risked everything to follow her heart. While still in mourning black, Mary secretly corresponded with Brandon. Their letters, smuggled through trusted hands, brimmed with devotion and desperation. Mary begged him to come to France and rescue her. The young widow was trapped, not by grief alone, but by royal chains forged in ambition and duty. When Brandon finally arrived in France, he came under official orders to escort her home. But their reunion was more than diplomatic. Against every law, they married in secret. It was an act of love, but also defiance. If discovered, both could lose everything, even their heads. Their marriage shocked the English court. Henry VIII, furious at their betrayal, considered imprisonment or execution. But Mary's charm, and a hefty fine, eventually softened her brother's rage. Brandon was spared. They returned to England officially married, but scandal followed them. Mary had defied a king to marry for love. Despite the whispers, Mary finally knew peace. For the first time, her fate was her own. She lived quietly with Brandon, raising a family. But the price of freedom had been high. Her story, so full of courage, passion, and rebellion, was slowly erased by a world that valued obedience over love. Mary Tudor had broken every rule of royal obedience. As a dowager queen and sister to the King of England, her secret marriage to Charles Brandon shocked Europe. It was a crime against the crown, punishable by death. But for Mary, love was worth the risk, no matter the royal consequences. Charles Brandon, Duke of Suffolk, had been King Henry VIII's closest friend. That bond now stood on a knife's edge. When news of the secret marriage reached England, fury erupted. Henry felt betrayed. His sister had disobeyed, and his best friend had stolen her. Their fate now hung on royal mercy. The couple returned to England in fear. Mary, once celebrated, was now scorned. Henry summoned them both to court. Executions for treason were common, even noble blood offered no protection. But Mary faced her brother boldly, trusting in their shared childhood bond and her ability to sway his heart. Mary pleaded with Henry in private. She reminded him of their closeness, their shared loss of their mother, and the burdens of royal duty. Her tears were real, but so was her strength. She offered to forfeit her French dowry and pay a fine if only he would forgive them. Henry VIII relented, but with conditions. The couple would pay a massive fine, surrendering most of Mary's wealth and titles. Their marriage would be recognized, but they would live away from court, in quiet disgrace. Though spared the axe, they would never again be truly trusted within royal politics. Mary and Brandon settled at Westhorpe Hall, far from the dangerous intrigues of the Tudor court. They raised children and lived with a strange mix of freedom and exile. Mary had defied the king and survived. But her once bright star had dimmed. She was a queen no more, only a wife. Despite everything, their love endured. It was one of Tudor England's rare love stories, one born in scandal but forged in loyalty. Mary Tudor had lost her crown, her wealth, and her status. But in defying the king, she won something few royals ever did, the right to choose her own life. Mary Tudor's later years were marked by peace, but also obscurity. Once Queen of France and sister to a king, she now lived quietly at Westhorpe Hall. Far from court and politics, she devoted herself to family. Yet, as England changed, her name faded from royal memory, like a shadow in history. Though she was no longer in the spotlight, Mary remained fiercely intelligent. She educated her children, managed estates, and advised Brandon privately. But with Henry VIII court dominated by power struggles and new queens, her influence waned. The woman who once shook monarchs now lived in quiet retreat. As Henry VIII's reign darkened with executions and political purges, Mary kept her distance. Her disapproval of Anne Boleyn and the king's divorces distanced her further from royal favor. Mary believed in marriage for love, but she watched as love in the Tudor court became a weapon and a curse. Her health declined rapidly in her early 30s. Some blamed the stress of royal scandal, others the sadness of exile. Mary died in 1533, just 37 years old. Her funeral was elegant but modest, a final farewell without grandeur. The former queen was laid to rest at Bury St. Edmund's Abbey. After her death, Charles Brandon remarried quickly, further dimming her memory at court. Mary's children were pushed to the margins of Tudor politics. Though of royal blood, they never held power. The woman who had once defied a king for love was slowly erased from the chronicles of history. In the centuries that followed, Mary Tudor became confused with other royals. Even her tomb was moved and lost during the dissolution of the monasteries. Few today know she was once Queen of France. Fewer still remember her as the woman who chose love over empire, and paid the price. Mary's story is not one of failure, but of quiet courage. She fought kings, defied nations, and loved against all odds. Her life was brief but brilliant. Though history may forget her name, her spirit lives on, in every soul who dares to choose their heart over the weight of destiny. Thanks for watching Buried Truths. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden corners of history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more powerful stories from history's hidden vault. See you in the next video.